Hi y'all, welcome back to my channel. As you can see by the title, this is my third video with my Semaglutide series. This video I'm going to talk about my first 8 weeks on Semaglutide and then yeah, my history with it essentially. So I am, as of today, I've had 12 shots, so I'm halfway through my second round. If you did not see the other videos, I'm not on Ozempic, I'm not on Wegovy, I'm on just Semaglutide. And I go and I have it injected weekly. And then I step on an InBody scan that tracks all my like water weight, muscle mass, body fat, BMI, all of that to make sure that I'm losing what I need to be losing and I'm not having of it, like it's not indicating there's going to be something happening in the future that's a negative thing. So it helps graph all of that in real time. It's a pretty, I'd say hands-on way of doing this, which I think is what has made my experience so positive with it. Because all of the things that I'm reading in the headlines, I'm like, yeah, that's not at all what I'm going through. So I thought it'd be valuable to share a more positive, also much more realistic way of doing this. So my first 8 weeks, I want to say I started at the beginning of November. I went in for Botox, and essentially what happened with me is I've maintained my weight pretty much my entire adult life. And my instinct is telling me it's hormones, but something's going on. And it definitely came in during the pandemic, and like everybody started gaining weight, and like obviously your metabolic like net is lower because you're not going as many places, you're not doing as much, blah, 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 right? But I gained in like 7 to 10 pound blocks, which aligns with hormonal weight gain. And I went to my doctor, and this had been happening for, at that point, I think we were right at 2.5 years. So it happened over a period of 2.5 years. And I had also, for full context, I had a tummy tuck in 2018. So like, it's really not okay for me to gain that kind of weight, right? Like, and I'm not like anti-body positivity. Like, this is just not what I look like. And I tried everything. I did Sakara. I was on the Peloton, to the point of like exercise bulimia. I was on the Peloton. I was exhausting all of my options, trying to figure out what the hell was wrong. And nothing was working. I just kept gaining, which also aligns with hormonal weight gain. So I made an appointment with my doctor, which took way too freaking long. It took like 8 months to get in. So, and all of that, I told her to please run everything she could possibly run on me. And cause I think I'm having hormonal weight gain and and she ran it all. And I literally like didn't even call me back. I got an email with the results and like a tiny little bit of feedback, was just like breaking down what this was. And nothing, no follow-up. So she basically wrote me off, and then she oh God, I'm tired. She had written off Jeremy as well with something he was concerned about. So we fired her. We're going to find a new doctor. Because I'm telling you, my floors are creaky. I don't want to come in once the house is flooded. You know what I mean? I'm trying to be proactive here. I think it's really important that I state, I don't have a, how do I say this? I don't have a problem with food. I could argue I'm a volume eater, but I'm a volume eater of things. It's like, I'm mindful of what I'm volume eating. Like, I don't want to eat a lot of junk. I also am not a junk food eater. I'm a big from scratch cook. I'm a farmer. I'd like to grow our food as much as possible. My food ethics are very high. Like, that wasn't my problem. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't just eating a cheesecake every day, and it looked like my scale reflected like I was. So I knew something was wrong, and I wasn't getting the attention that I was trying to get. I wasn't getting answers, nothing. Because they were like, well, your A1C is fine. You're not pre-diabetic. I'm like, right, but like something that doesn't fix it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm telling you something's wrong. So I also didn't feel good in my body. I felt really stretched out and bloated and just like uncomfortable all the time. And I would like fast on days we didn't have the kids to try to help it. I mean, like, I'm not kidding. I did it all. And the other thing worth mentioning is we have 2 girls, and like no way in hell am I going to ever demonstrate disordered eating for them. So it's really important to me that when finding a treatment, whatever I did didn't rub off on them. I do not want them growing up with a weird relationship with food and with body image and all of that. It is hard enough to be a girl. They don't need that. So that was really, really important to me. So anyway, all that to say, I go in November, I'm getting my Botox, and literally the first thing out of my mouth she's my friend, to my friend Gina, who's my injector, she's a fantastic nurse, was, please tell me you know something that I don't know. You have some advice on hormonal weight gain. Like, where do I go? Because I cannot take this anymore. And she's like, yeah, I do. And so we were talking about that, and she gave me a recommendation for a place to go, but she goes, I'll also tell you what we talked through, symptoms and everything. And I'm going to save this because it's a medical experience conversation. So I'm going to keep that private. But essentially she had almost identical symptoms that I was showing. And this is what she did. And she is I don't even know how qualified, crazy qualified nurse. She's phenomenal. And she was saying like, well, we just started doing it in-house. Like I was going here, we started doing it in-house, so then I started coming in-house and our nurse practitioner administers it. But if you want to have a consultation, I advise you doing that. So, but we kind of talked about how it works and how it, like, would it help? And she goes, well, I think the best way to look at it is if you're not getting the answers that you need, at least you're kind of coming in almost like reverse engineering. You're coming in from the back end and you're solving it that way. So at least you're eliminating. So my instinct is that I have a very high estrogen. My instinct is that my estrogen is like way higher than it should be. And what happens with excess estrogen is it stores in your body as fat. And it don't matter what you do, it ain't going anywhere. So she's like she had been put on some other stuff, and she said, you know, I did that for a little bit. I didn't refill it. I got on this and it worked great. I'm like, okay, cool. This is a much longer conversation, made very short for the sake of this video. So I was talking to my nurse practitioner who administers it. I asked her a bunch of questions. We talked it through and I started it. So my first 8 weeks, I started on 0.25 of just semaglutide. Again, worth mentioning, not on Ozempic, not on Wegovy. I do not administer it myself. I stepped on a scale that was an InBody scale, and it measured my BMI. Also worth mentioning is I had my lab work done recently because I had gone to my doctor, and I had all that lab work done. So I had that, and it was within enough time, like it was recent enough that it qualified as like, you know what I mean? Like we could accept it. So I did that, and then I had it done that day. Like she was like, yeah, you're like that. I literally have all the information I could possibly need. You're great. You're perfectly qualified for it. You're a great candidate. Her words were, I was an ideal candidate. So I did it. And I was on 0.25, and in my first 8 weeks, you go from 0.25, 0.5, 0.75 to 1. You do not exceed 1. You may not even get to 1. It's based on your body. So I know somebody else who's on it, and she's still at 0.5, and she's been on it longer than me, because 0.5 works for her. So I started at 0.25, and in the first 8 weeks, I managed to get to 1, and I stayed on, I don't know, I can't remember what the phasing was, but I want to say it was like 2 weeks of each. That makes sense. Okay. Because also holidays and that kind of stuff. So yeah. So I lost 15 pounds in 8 weeks. Now, the rule of thumb, like they always tell you, is if you're losing between 1 and 3 pounds a week, you're right on track. So you're doing great. So I did not lose as much as most people do in the first 8 weeks, but I technically fit in the like tolerable, like the range of tolerance. So I was fine. I'll talk through my second, like this current batch that I'm on in a different video. I'm sticking to the first 8 weeks in this one. My first 8 weeks, I had literally 0 side effects. I have no nausea, no headaches, no nothing, not one thing. So I can say with confidence, if you have like, I think a really if you know your body well, like you know your cues, you know what, like I know I don't get headaches. Like if I have a headache, it's because I'm dehydrated, like literally. So I would know, oh, well, that's new. You know what I mean? I also know how I eat. So I'm not somebody who eats like, I don't eat chips. I don't eat junk food. I don't buy junk food. If it comes out of a bag or a box, it typically doesn't make it into my house. That's not a thing. We don't eat white sugar. I don't buy white sugar. We don't have high fructose corn syrup. I mean, there's just like a lot of stuff that just, I don't eat. And it's very whole foods diet or something. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. So all that to say, like, I don't know if that had an impact on how well I tolerate it, because it's not having to deal with whatever. I also can tell you, the first thing I definitely noticed was your stomach. The biggest thing I can tell you notice is that it slows down how your GI system works. So instead of your stomach dumping out in an hour, it slows it down to like 6 to 7 hours. So I noticed it in the cadence of my appetite in the day. So normally I get up early, I drink a coffee the size of this, and I would crush it in like an hour, and I'd make another one. Now, and it was like this from day one. It takes me anywhere from 3 to 5 hours to drink this, and I just have the one. I think I've made a second one, I don't know, twice in this entire time. And it was, today might be one of those days, so maybe 3. And it was, I never finish it. I don't even get halfway. And I tell you, more times than those 3 times, I've not finished my first cup of coffee. It's just sat there for like 6 hours and it gets like, I don't want to drink that. So that's worth mentioning. You also will, something else I noticed was that I get up early and then I don't have my coffee for breakfast. I'll maybe have a coffee with something for lunch. And more often than not, pre-semaglutide, I was eating like an egg sandwich. Like, and I make a sourdough bread, so it's all like homemade or local or whatever. And I literally, I think yesterday at like 2:30, not at 10:30, but like at 2:30, I had an open face like egg sandwich, like hard boiled, like egg salad sandwich rather. So your portions dramatically reduce because you just can't eat that much. The other thing I noticed, the point of all of this is your timing. Like, you're going to notice like, oh, I'm just not hungry right now anymore. Or I just need a little bit. When on days that I have been like, oh, I could eat like a meal at lunch, or usually for me, it's like earlier in the afternoon, like between like 1 and 3. So normally pre-shots, like how it would normally go is I would be ready to eat dinner. Like I'd be like hungry at 3:30. I'd start making dinner, and then with the goal of having dinner on the table like 5-ish, just because by the time kids get home from school and all that. And now what I notice is I've got a little, but I would be like, let's go. Like I'm ready. And now I'm like, I've got a little bit more grace around that. And I also notice that like, I'll still get hungry. It just doesn't take anywhere near as much to fill me up. And then at the same time, when you feel like satisfied, you are done. So like my experience has been like, I'll hit a wall. I'm like, oh no, I'm good. And like, you're good. You cannot keep going. You can't keep eating. Because if you do, you'll get that feeling where like, like when you eat something really good, you can't stop, and then suddenly it's like in your neck, like, or that's what it feels like to me. It's like I get this way with Indian food, because it's like so really good Indian food where it's like, oh my God, I could just eat all of this. Yeah, you just can't. Yeah, no. And then drinking. Just anything that you're consuming, you see a reduction in. And naturally as a byproduct of that, you're going to reduce everything. You're going to reduce your weight, you're going to reduce your appetite, all of that stuff's going to come down. So, and then as something my cousin said, Dr. Cousin said to me was, well, the benefit to that is you're shrinking your stomach too. So that the longer you stay on it, the more kind of conditioned your stomach gets to the less it's much more maintainable, because you've given your body time to kind of recalibrate, which I thought was really helpful. Because something that was a concern of mine was like, I don't want to be on this forever. You know what I mean? Like I want to be on this for a reasonable amount of time to undo what has happened to me. But I also need to, I'm not diabetic. I don't want to be on Ozempic or whatever. Like I don't need it for the rest of my life. And she's like, yeah. And something she said that I thought was really helpful was, the benefit to this, if you're qualified for it, like if you're, BMI and all that kind of shit, everything you needed to have is you have. It from a doctor perspective, from a physician perspective, by taking care of, the excess weight, you're also taking care of your predisposition to all kinds of things that would impact the quality and the length of your life. So things like your blood pressure and your cholesterol and things that kind of come together and then they snowball. She's by catching it early and doing it early and really addressing it just as weight before it becomes diabetes or becomes whatever else. That's so much healthier for you. And that is what is really wonderful about this as like a real medicine. So treating it as a medicine, I think, is pretty important, and not as like this Hollywood secret how I lost 5 pounds. You're not supposed to just, first off, you only have 5 pounds to lose. You're not actually supposed to be on it. But yeah, and okay, I've not had any issues with my sleep. I haven't had first 8 weeks. I think I went down. I think I didn't lose every single week. It wasn't consistent. Like some weeks would be, 1. I think I had 1 week that was almost 3. I might be wrong. I could pull out the stuff. Actually, hang on, I probably should. Okay, so sorry. This is what an InBody printout looks like. The inside of this has all my information that I'm not sharing with you because I don't trust anybody that much, except for the person that's doing this with me. So this one, I'm 4 weeks in. At the 4-week mark on my body composition history, weight, skeletal muscle mass, percentage body fat. I can tell you I'd lost, 7.8 pounds. My muscle mass reduced, my muscle mass reduced 2.7 pounds. My body fat actually had gone up. It had gone down down 0.1, and then it had gone up 2 points. Something she said to me though was, I actually am really glad I pulled this one. The 4 weeks, she's like, you're calibrating, like your body's like figuring out what's going on. So it hadn't gone down. My body water weight, she wanted it at least at 70 and I was at 82. So she's like, that's amazing. But she's like, that's okay. Cause it technically had only gone up 0.2 in body fat and my muscle mass had gone down some, but I also had gone down 7. Like she's taking into account of everything. Yeah, and then there's something called segmental lean analysis that it does, where it tells your left arm, right arm, trunk, left leg, right leg, how much it weighs, and then a percentage, which is the lean mass percentage, I believe. And then you do an obesity analysis, which is your BMI, a percentage body fat, total amount of water in body, built for building muscles and strength, your dry lean mass, for storing excess energy is your body fat mass, and some of the above, which is your weight. Okay, cool. So at that point, I was in that period of adjustment, and then I have, what is this one? Please tell me this is the one I want. Yes. So excellent. Okay, so then I've got week 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 3 through 10 on this one. Perfect. 3 to 8, I dropped, 9.3 more pounds. So I was down 15.2 according to the scale. I will also, this is really important to mention, when I stepped on the scale the very first time, the very next morning, I stepped on my personal scale, first thing in the morning after you pee when you're naked. And I was like 3.5 pounds less than I was when I weighed in on that InBody, because you're naked, you don't have clothes. And I will also tell you, it's really worth mentioning, when you go in, if you do the InBody part of it, I hope to God you do, because I find it so valuable, but wear lightweight clothes. So I tend to wear either like the same pair of jeans, or I wear the same outfit. So the same pair of jeans or pair of leggings and like a relatively lightweight top. And I take whatever I've got on over top of it, because it's winter, I take off. So yeah, I was down 15.2. My skeletal muscle mass reduced 4.1 pounds, and my percentage of body fat went down, 1.7%. Yeah, which, cool. And then my body water weight has always been fine. So I've always been like right around 80. I think my lowest was like 78, and that was because I was crying, basically. I was crying a lot. And that's actually something else that I'll talk about in the second one, is I'm experiencing like devastating grief while being on this, and how that's impacted it. It's actually been kind of interesting, because life keeps going. So my hydration and my fat, like it was actually really weird to step on it right when I was just, I went in one day, I went in the day after it happened, and I was just, and yeah, like my salt was all weird, because you're like, I don't think I've ever cried that much in my life. You know what I mean? Like it's a legit thing. So how it reads in your body, that's kind of interesting to know that. So I just think like it's really helpful to have this InBody thing if you can get that done wherever you go. So my BMI had gone down pretty, 1.3. Cool. But yeah, so, and well, that's not accurate for where I was on 8. I don't have the 8-week one. All that to say. So it is not, I think it's important for me to mention that, because like, yeah, I lost 15 pounds, but it's also, what you're looking at, the rest of your body, your muscle mass, your fat, all that kind of stuff. Like that's kind of a slower transition, and you want to make sure that your body's reducing fat and not reducing. You're naturally going to reduce some muscle as you lose weight, but you don't want to have the muscle plummet and the fat go up. You know what I mean? Like you just kind of want to, it'll take some time to balance as your body figures stuff out, and then it's like, oh, cool. You know what I mean? Anyway, I don't know, whatever. So something she's actually said to me is I'm not losing at the rate that most people do. So I have subsequently, I'll touch on this later, but my journey is going to be a little bit different. Like most people would just plummet on this, and I'm not. So 15 is a respectable amount, but most people are higher. So and I definitely have the weight to lose. So it's not like I started with I only need to lose 20 pounds. I came in being like, something is wrong with me. So I kind of have a hypothesis that I'm going to be a little tougher to solve because it's hormonal. You know what I mean? Like that kind of makes sense to me. If it was just falling off me, then I don't know if that would align as much with my instinct, but I need to find, that's not the point of this, essentially. All that to say. So first 8 weeks, I can tell you, were really smooth. And I mean, like I had a really busy, I did Vlogmas, I had Adelaide, was just, with side effects of her chemo, and like, I mean, it was just, and then the puppies, and then my dad was here, and it's the holidays, and we had the party. I mean, it was so busy. And I think something actually really worth mentioning is if your diet is in check, something that I don't necessarily think is like a great thing about this, but is a really nice thing. When life gets crazy and you can't carve out an hour plus or whatever you do to work out every single day, having this in your body, I find that sense of control, like you haven't fully, life happens, things happen. But to know that like you're not completely regressing in that way, the peace of mind is, I find, very valuable. Like I didn't work out hard. I don't think I worked out like at all in December. I think I did a little bit, but probably not much. And then I have literally gotten on the bike once in January because I've just been so sad. And you know what I mean? Like it's just nice to know that like, okay, I'm solving this in multiple ways. So if I need to take a break to just from exercise to just put one foot in front of the other, this is still working. And I'm curious to see going forward is like once I am not as like in it with the grief as I still am, like I'm curious if it picks up or if this data changes. So that's a little off topic, but it's something where if you're looking into this, I would view the 8 weeks, because you do it in 8-week increments, I'd view the 8 weeks as like phases. Like I wonder what's different about phase 1 versus phase 2 versus phase 3, or chapters. I guess chapters would be better. I'm curious like what the difference is, because my chapter 2 is different than my chapter 1. I can tell you that. So yeah, but my first 8 weeks for me were really smooth sailing. I had no side effects. I ramped up to 1, stayed at 1. How to know, I guess worth mentioning, how to know when to go up. I could tell it could be stronger. I could tell like, this feels, when you first start it, you're like, oh wow, I'm not hungry. You notice the absence, right? You're like, oh God, normally I would be eating right now, I'm not. Or normally I could finish that and I just can't, or something like that. And so then when you start to notice like you're getting used to it, you're like, oh, this could be stronger. And that's when you're ready to go up. And then you can get to a spot where you're just like, no, I'm good here. Like I am perfectly fine staying at this dosage, and I have not had any issues yet, or my appetite doesn't come back, or, whatever it is, like I'm feeling fine. I don't have any weird side effects. Like I'm feeling fine. Then just stay there. And then you change when you need to change, but you're not on some predetermined track. It's based on you. I think I've not heard anybody say that. Like it's based on your tolerance for it and your reactions and all that kind of stuff. So, okay, that was my first 8 weeks. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions or anything you want me to address in a subsequent video, please leave me a comment. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon. Bye.